Hey, Mountain Community, Jeff back again. Time for another perfect 10. What are we up to now? 12. I'm going to go ahead and do one of these. Get this in the queue. I am, because I will be going out of town for a week. So I wanted to go ahead and have a couple in the queue for covering that time. Hopefully I will have some reveal videos when I'm done, because I'll be going to New York, hopefully hitting some record stores, getting some new stuff. But anyway, so for this one, it's going to appear sometime during that time frame. So let's jump right in. I basically just got down and started counting and pulling, so I really haven't looked at many of these at all since I just randomly pulled them real quick. So let's get right into it. And let's see, we ended last time with Rat, so I see we are now up to Raven, Mad, the EP. I see this is a gold stamp promo too. So yeah, Raven, this is, you know, that they got forced into that commercial album that they hated, and so they came back mad. Anyway, I think neat thing about this, here's Wacko on the back. He's got the Rototom drum set, which I actually went for that entire look back in the 80s too. It wasn't him that I was copying, it was somebody in another band that, and I was telling this guy in the other band from California just the other day, I said, you know, I copied your drum set back in the day. And I guess he had gotten it from, I think, gotten the idea from Alex Van Halen, and you see it in the Jump video. So I did not. I got it from this guy. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have all Rototoms. And so I had the 1, 2, 3 that most people have, and then I had the next two and the next two. So I had the entire set of 7 Rototoms with the double bass kit. Anyway, maybe if I can find a picture, I will show that at this point. But there you go. Raven, Mad, they came back with some great stuff, which was a little more in line with what they were used to, other than that commercial album that they were kind of, which I don't mind. The commercial album's pretty cool, but yeah, it kind of, fans didn't like it as much. All right, up next, Recon, Behind Enemy Lines. This is recently reissued, just in the past couple years. An amazing album. Most people like it. Is falls in the Christian rock, Christian metal realm. Most people liken this band to a Halloween. Vocalist sounds a little bit like Halloween, kind of a Halloween Queensryche type feel. I think it's just an amazing album. Sadly, one and done, and you know, the musicians went on to do other things and have done a lot of great things since then. But and I think they're, yeah, anyway, there's been no other real recordings beyond this and the early demo. But there you go, Recon. That brings us up to RezBand, Resurrection Band, Hostage, another Christian hard rocking band who have started in the early 70s, put out a lot of amazing stuff. And yeah, this is one of their greats. I'm trying to think, this was, I don't know, this is around that time frame in the, would have been the early 80s. I'm not even going to try to read that in this light. I want to say, yeah. So anyway, yeah, great stuff. Just hard rocking, blues rocking, gritty rocking, just great stuff. If you're not familiar with Resurrection Band, they have, you know, they made their mark. They're a great band, great stuff. Glenn Kaiser, the singer, still doing music, bluesy type stuff. He's doing a lot of solo stuff now on the blues side of things. All right, here's one that I actually picked up probably in the past year. Thundersteel by Riot. Love Riot. This is when they, you know, new vocalist, kind of a change, got very, very power metal-y sounding. Really changed gears from the early stuff. This album for a while was, you know, kind of hard to find, and I found one in an antique store for a reasonable price. So I was glad to have that. It was in great condition. And so, yeah. Riot, you know, they're still continuing, but it's different members and stuff. A lot of the original band from the earlier days have since passed. And so I'm definitely more in tune with their stuff from the, you know, late 70s, early 80s, up to about this time. And then after this, it's kind of hit or miss as far as what I'm aware of. I didn't really get much, didn't keep up with all of their stuff from that time frame. All right, Vengeance by TheRods. So TheRods put out a few great albums in the early 80s, kind of, you know, disappeared for a while, did their own thing, and then came back. I don't know when this was. This was in the past 10 years, I believe. So anyway, they came back and they've done a couple great albums. 2011, 2013, it's hard to read in its dark print. But yeah, so they came back, got back and got some great new music out. So this is one of their more recent releases. I think there is another one beyond this that I do not think I have. TheRods, New York band, trio. Carl Kennedy on drums. Dave Feinstein on guitar, who is the cousin of Ronnie James Dio. Anyway, great band. I love them. All right, we're getting all kinds of these in this genre. Calling Down Fire by RosannasRaiders, another Christian hard rock band from Australia, and female fronted, and which obviously the name RosannasRaiders. Love the artwork on this. They put out 2 great albums, which I think I have one of them on vinyl. They have been reissued on CD, which I have, and then they have a CD that came out a while back as an import, kind of a comp of a lot of their other demos and stuff that have been released by the band that have not come out on any kind of format like this. So, but yeah, I think I do need to get the other album. But there you go, RosannasRaiders, Calling Down Fire from the 80s there. JamieRowe, This Is Home. So JamieRowe, of course, was a singer for Guardian. He's done some solo work and everything. He's done a lot of other bands. Adrian Gale has done. They've done a lot of CDs with them. He's been around and done a lot of music. And this was an album he did about 2 years ago, 2, 3, 2. Time flies, hard to tell. Where he kind of came back on his own. And at times there's a little bit of country pizzazz on this, country rock. And anyway, so it's kind of just him and his personal stuff. 2020, 3 years ago. He just dropped a brand new album under the band name Calamity Kills. It just it was a Kickstarter type program, and it got funded, blah, blah, blah. So the digital tracks have dropped about a week or 2 ago. It's great stuff, very much different from this. It's very hard rock and back in the hard rock vein that he's known for with bands like Guardian and Adrian Gale and things along that line. And yes, so the physical products are in the process of dropping, but for now, that's what we have. And this was his album from a couple years ago, where he was just kind of him and himself doing a lot of great stuff there. All right, what the heck? I must be in Christian rock territory. SacredWarrior, the first SacredWarrior album. This is the reissue. I have the original copy of this, OG copy too, but the reissue, a great band, very much in the vein of a Queensryche, and a lot of that's because of the vocalist, the way his vocals are compared. And this was the first album that really just blew down the doors for them. I think when this album came out, it blew us all away. We love this stuff. And thankfully, you know, it was hard to find, it was expensive, and then Rox Records reissued this a couple years ago. And that's what we have here. I'm not sure you can get it now, because it was pretty limited run type release, but if you can track it down, it is a great album. And we're just continuing in that vein with some Saint, Warriors of the Sun. Again, this is the reissue. This is their early, is it 1984? This was when I told my story about how I trashed all my records and I went out and bought the first album by bands like Leviticus, Cyber Prophet, and Saint. This is the one. Of course, this is a reissue, remastered 180 gram, I think, or, you know, modern take on it. Reissue of the album. I do have the original copy, but this is where it started for me, was getting this first album. You could tell, and they got a lot of comparison to Judas Priest just because of the looks, but Josh Greenwood's vocals do tend to lean that way. They have actually on one of their albums, they did a cover of Invader. Very much they have that sound, so if you're into Judas Priest, this band is going to be something very similar to that as far as your taste may go. And I've been a great fan of Saint since this time, and they've done some great stuff, and they're still around, and they're still doing great stuff, albeit with a different singer that still sounds just as great. But anyway, all right, moving on, we've got Savatage, Dead Winter Dead. This, again, I've mentioned this before and talking about this album. These are one of the recent reissues. They've reissued all the Savatage albums. Now they get the live album that's already up for pre-order, and I think that's going to pretty much complete the whole series. Did live in Japan. And anyway, so this is the album that spawned the Christmas Sarajevo, and that song then spun off and became Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and the core of this band became the catalyst for that, with many other great musicians. And that band has continued putting out great albums with some of the musicians still from Savatage. It depends on which coast you see them on as to who's playing with them, but it's been a great thing. And this is where it all started, was from Savatage and this album, and then from here it just went crazy with the Christmas music and other non-Christmas music too. SaviourMachine Legend Part 2. When did I showed one of these the other day? Anyway, there's Legend Part 1, Legend Part 2, Legend Part 3.1, 3.2, something like that. But as far as I can tell right now, only Legend 1 and 2 were ever released on vinyl, and I happened to snag 1 and 2. So here you go. Very gothic, very theatrical when it comes to the live show. And anyway, so this is a band that on these particular Legend series, they have basically written a rock opera centered around their understanding or their interpretation of events in the book of Revelation and things along that line, of a futuristic type end times scenario. And so that's what they've done, 3 or 4 albums on that story, and this is part 2. So there you go, 10, perfect 10, another 10 albums from my collection. As you can see, we're getting into the S's, so we won't have too long before we move into the last few alphabets, but I think I could probably squeeze probably a good 3 more of these out before I have to move into any other subgenre music. That's it for this one, though. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you later. Rock on and rock hard.